allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Megan, you want to do the roll call?
Dina Kreitler,
Here.
Jan Brown,
Here.
Sarah Menard,
Here.
Donna Rash,
Here.
Kelly Pollard,
Here.
Laura Oliver, here. Casey Benner, here. Jack Cutting,
Here.
and Richard Grimminger. And Tom, I apologize, I forgot that you were also Tom Hooper.
And then here.
Sorry. We have a quorum.
Okay, before we go to the approval of agenda, Mayor, do you have any remarks that you'd like to make?
Yeah, I would like to thank you all for being here, and thank you all for your commitment to this committee. It's very important. It's important to the city. It's very important to tourism, so I'm just thrilled that you're all here, that we're just going to go forward. I would like to welcome Casey. She will be taking Mary Beth's place on the board and filling that term out. And then Jack and Tom will be liaisons from the TTC on this board also. Okay? And I appreciate everything. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Moving along to the approval of the minutes of the May 16th meeting. I have two. Can I get a motion to approve the May 16th minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, citizens to be heard. Do we have any citizens? Pat? Nobody?
I think we
Okay.
have several citizens
We have
that just
several.
don't.
They don't want to be heard.
Here, want to be heard.
Okay. Okay, we'll just move on along to the tourism report.
Okay. First of all, I'm going to pass this around. These are our tourism-related financials that we track, revenue and expenses, and select items like printing, the department marketing expense, and the other sources of revenue for tourism. So I'm going to pass this around, and while that's passing around, I'll go over I guess I better keep one. I'll go over our statistics for the month of June. So the summer travel season is definitely upon us. In June, the total count at the Welcome Center was 2,299 versus last year's June was 2,002. So not a big difference, but we had on the year, this reflects so on the year to date reflects almost even with last year's, even though June was a little bit up. May had been a little bit down. If you remember, we had quite a few rainy days, and then we also had a couple of days that, like for instance, the garden walk in May, the second day was very rainy and our numbers were down. So in the month of May, we had fewer visitors than we did in 2016, but in month of June, we kind of made up for that. So the calendar year-to-date totals are 9,190 for 2017 versus 9,179 for last year. So we're really neck and neck with exactly where we were last year at this time. And I fully anticipate that we're going to be pulling ahead and making up for some of that spring rain and so on. Passports in June, the amount of passports sold were 147 adults and 24 students. By comparison, May was 134 adults and 209 students. Obviously, we have lots of students that go through in the month of April and May in particular. I also wanted to pass out this report. This just, I talked about this a little bit at the May meeting, but this is kind of side-by-side analysis of our Google versus Bing search engine paid search that we do. And there's going to be more of these than we actually need because I'm going to use the same reports during the TTC. So as that's making its way around, I also wanted to point out that we did conduct a trial with TripAdvisor in the month of June, and we're waiting to get those results back, but it seems like we had a big influx of people on the street during the middle of the week, and maybe even the lodging might have expected more midweek business than in previous summers so far. I've had a lot of people comment that back to me, so I'm thinking that it's having an impact. So if you've received the Google and Bing, are you having to share one down there? That's a, keep on this.
Wait, there's one here.
Oh, okay. I just saw them sharing over. So, so basically you can see, for instance, for June, Google's numbers are always higher. There's just more traffic there, and they're always going to be higher. So between May at 1,542 clicks on Google and 291 on Bing, and June 1,786 on Google and 244 on Bing. We also have a higher spend on Google than we do on Bing. So for our fiscal year, year to date, we have 12,263 click-throughs on our Google AdWords and 5,377 on Bing for a total of 17,640. This is just a quick snapshot just to show you you know, fluctuations. You would expect that December and January probably would be our two lowest months, and then you see them start to pick up. Definitely May and June were the strongest months so far on Google, and in Bing we had the strongest months in March and April. So and we average, you know, they talk about so you have so many thousands and thousands of impressions, so they're serving that ad out there, and these are just the click-throughs. So this is not how many times the ad was served. These are actually people that click through to the site. And our ad averages a placement between 2 and 3 on the returned searches. So it's usually about 2.3 is the, you know, the average, but I say between 2 and 3 because you can't be in the middle, right? It's like that 2.4 children, right? So that's just a quick snapshot of the Google's and Bing search engine reports. When we started this program, they just did Google AdWords. This is offered through Madden Media, which is the Missouri State Division of Tourism's official organization that handles this and kind of balances out the program all across the state. They started just with Google AdWords, and then they expanded to include Bing a little over a year ago and kind of get some more diversity into the program. And the Bing user demographics tend to skew slightly older, more 50 plus and retirees on Bing. So for what that's worth, and that's a strong part of our target market, obviously. So we'll continue to track that, and at the end of the fiscal year, actually, we'll do a report of all the Google Analytics. It's pages and pages of information, but it's interesting, and we continue to monitor those keywords and search engine prompts. If there's one that's not doing as well, we might change it up a little bit, and we kind of monitor that throughout the year. I also wanted to talk about, there are several people here that participated in our visioning exercise for tourism that we hosted down at the Welcome Center the third week in June. And I'm going to pass this out. This is actually 2 sheets. So here's the first sheet.
Okay.
And here's the second sheet. So on that evening, we had business owners and representatives from the historic properties, and also staff such as myself. Dina was there participating, and we even had Tim Good as a guest from St. Louis. He came down and participated with us, as well as some members of the Colonial Dames organization that came down and participated. We had a really nice turnout. I wanted to distribute the sum total of these responses to the members of the Tourism Advisory Council. So you can see the first group under the bold title, it says Tourism Visioning Notes. So these were the ones that at the end of the evening had the most votes amongst the people in the work session. And the number, or the names at the end, for the ones that had the most votes, we asked people if they might be interested to participate in supporting that program as we move forward. So these might be something that the new chairperson might decide to either assign to some committees or maybe form some new committees. I was thinking you might want to consider maybe we could take this information and circulate it more broadly and allow people to, to just give some additional feedback. And, there might be some ideas that people thought about after that night. And there might be some people that weren't able to participate that we could get some good input from. Totally, whatever you think would be the best thing there. But you can see the ones that seem to pop up most frequently, getting more sort of the whole category of having young people involved both in our festivals, and you'll see on the second page there, down 3/4 of the way toward the bottom, jobs for teenagers, internships, service. That seemed to come up quite a bit because they will be our next generation of tourism and hospitality professionals, and so getting them involved, and also to benefit both the businesses and the students that might participate in that. And then the second one, although I think it had an equal number of votes, was hospitality training. This came up again and again, and of course this is not going to be a surprise to this group because this is something that we have talked about over the years. Just the importance of that hospitality. But one of the things that came up during that work session was, we really need to kind of think of this in terms of the experience of the visitor when they start by getting off of the interstate and let's say they're coming in Highway 32. Are we, looking for opportunities to educate people at the gas stations and people at the Dairy Queen, and certainly the Microtel staff would be well informed, but what if somebody pulled into like Casey's gas station, hey there, Casey's gas station, and the person didn't know where the historic district was, or something pretty basic that we think probably everybody knows, but that might not be the case, especially if it could be a young person that doesn't. How many of us probably drove right past these places and didn't know what they were, right? So hospitality training was something that came up quite a bit. things for kids and families to do. This would also serve the purpose of getting more locals involved, and we saw that as an important factor because locals will give you that business whenever it's not the tourist season, so to speak, and also just strengthening our local economy. Revisiting the hiking trail and the levee. I know there have been ongoing discussions about that, but keeping that top of mind as we move forward. Related to that was the ferry landing, and pardon the shorthand here, fix up the ferry. That means the ferry landing, not the ferry itself. But really enhancing our river presence. This is something that we have talked about for a while, and we have some individuals who are interested in working on this, but specifically with an eye towards capturing more of that tour boat business. Right now, our tour boat guests that come for tours actually get off their tour boat in Chester, as we know, and they take a bus up. That time on the bus could be spent on the street in St. Genevieve. And then in terms of cell service, tourism phone apps, underground utilities, and there were other comments that were kind of made around that technology kinds of things. Matchups of the maps and numbers on the houses. So we actually, in our print committee, have come a long way from, we used to have a separate map for the walking around map and a separate map from the map that was in the brochure, and there were different numbers on them, and then we also had descriptions of the houses, the tour houses with different numbers on those. So we've adjusted those, but it was pointed out that it might be helpful for the numbers on the houses to be revisited, so that if there were, like if the Felix Valley is number 17 on the map, so that there's like some kind of a little 17 on that house, so you know when you're standing there, it's not just the street number of the house, but it's where it is on the map. So that was a interesting suggestion that we hadn't had before. And then Christmas Village. Christmas Village and kind of a Christmas market kind of concept was something that came up several times, and there were several people interested in that, including the Hoopers are very interested in that topic. And I won't go through the rest of the list. You can look at that in the days that come, but if you wouldn't mind to email me and tell me if you weren't there at the meeting and you'd like to give some additional input or thoughts, and if you were there at the meeting, you've had something pop up into mind that you didn't think about. And then I wanted to see what the council thought about maybe circulating this to a larger audience and gain some additional input from the community. What would you think about that? Possibly through the newspaper, or we possibly could put it on our social media. I know it's dangerous when you open those questions of, what would you like to see more of? Some of those responses are pretty predictable, but I think also it might lend towards, greater awareness and knowledge. Any thoughts there?
Well, I think you're right. I think it is a good idea to get input from all areas, and it is surprising sometimes good ideas come from where you would least expect them to come. So,
any thoughts as the best ways to go about it? Should we limit it to social media or print media, or should we try both? Or
that probably requires a little more thought. Off the top of my head, I don't know, but.
Sandra, are you thinking that you would just take like this, these things and just put it out there like that, or just a
Well, we
couple
might
of,
edit
a
it a
couple,
little bit, but-
right, a couple of the topics and then let them expand off of it themselves?
Yeah, pick enough topics so most people will see something they're interested in, but not so much at levels.
That would be overwhelming.
Give them
Yeah.
8 or 10 choices or something like that, because any more than that, and they can also expand on something if they're very interested.
So maybe stick to the ones that had the highest number of votes so
That makes
far?
total sense.
Or just make sure that reduce the redundancy in some of those.
Okay.
Well, I think we did something like this about 6 years ago, and we did it through the Herald.
Okay.
How did it, you ran an ad, or?
It was kind of like editorial space.
How did they
It was-
respond?
it was-
How did they respond, I guess is the question.
I think, if I remember right, it was a checkbox type thing, and you just tear it out of paper.
Tear it out and send it in.
Yeah.
How many followers do we have on your Visit St. John Facebook page?
Oh, goodness.
I mean, is it a decent amount, or
Yeah,
this
I
would be
think
effective?
It's over 1,000.
I would
Let me
imagine-
answer that real quick
Or
for you.
we
Okay.
do both of them, that gives you.
Are you still gonna have in there?
could do
Yeah,
the
you
same
could do
without-
both,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
mean, Facebook's
And especially
easy,
with
and
the-
I would think it's
Especially
gonna
with the
sell.
same ballot type
Because
thing
some
on
people may
each.
not do the social media where they might
Right.
do the paper.
Yeah.
Good point. We have about 1,500, 1,474.
That's pretty significant, and you
Yeah.
can, I'm sure a lot
Between both
of
of
that
us,
is business
it's a good
owners who
process.
have
A stake in the
Yes.
game,
Mhm.
yeah. So maybe
Do
we're,
both.
sounds like maybe we do both and try to capture some input from social media and some input from print media too. Because I know there's a lot of, like you said, there's a lot of like diehard people that read the paper that might never go near social media. So,
You know, the chamber will be interested in putting it in our newsletter as well.
Oh, great.
So,
When's
and that would
your,
capture another group of audiences.
yeah, business owners especially.
I mean, I don't know what newsletter you're wanting to hit. I have a newsletter getting ready to go out next week, but,
You in your room?
yeah, actually I do.
I can do it if you can include it. That way it would kind of get the same timing as the, because otherwise it would be another month, wouldn't it?
Yeah, you can, if you can get it to me by Friday, I can just drop it in.
Okay. And so, the paper and the chamber newsletter and our Visit St. John Facebook page.
It should give you a pretty good.
Yeah.
Maybe social
cross-section.
media, you address guests and ask what they'd like to see here, or what they think if we are lacking, or what,
Yeah.
they see for improvement. I mean, you're opening up a can of worms, but
Right.
you might
Well,
hit on
you
something.
just have to filter
Yeah.
through the
Yeah.
responses and.
Yeah.
Well, now that we have a retail shop, at least we, because a lot of times the responses circulate around retail, right?
There are no stores, yeah.
Okay, and so, you know what, and then I wanted to point out that there was kind of a category that kept popping up about opportunities for entrepreneurially minded people. Bike rental is one. We came this close to having a bike rental business, and then she decided she'd rather do something else. But I still see a lot of active travelers, and even, if they've come here to spend the night in a bed and breakfast, they could be walking around or they could be driving around, but bicycling enables them to, experience it directly and still, be a little active, so, or bicycle up to the ferry landing or something. So we have people that ask us about that. And then there are several others. I was, old-time photos, whoever suggested that probably didn't realize that we had that at one time, and it didn't get a lot of use, I suppose, but, and RV sites, I think the Eclipse is definitely going to prove that this is a market that we could go after and get some high-end travelers that would enhance the number of overnight guests that we can have with our limited number of beds. So what I was getting around to was if there are any other TAC members who are interested in contributing at some of those at the top of the page, let me know what appeals to you, and don't feel like you have to take something, but if there's some place that you think that you can have an impact, certainly love to have more input on these issues.
The chamber did a hospitality training back in, I think it was like 2008 or 2009, and it was very well received.
Yeah.
And it was like a 3-month program, and we did target like restaurants and gas stations and things like that. We didn't get a whole lot of participation at first because I think they were just like, I don't know if I want to send my person there. But then after they themselves came and they're like, oh yeah, I think they would benefit, then it did draw a lot of traffic from that. And it was definitely successful, but I think that we do still need it needs to be something done that is more on a regular basis than just, every 5 or 6 years. Because of course these kids grow up and get real jobs.
That's not too regular.
Do what?
That's not too regular.
Right.
Do you do any type of a crash course for your workers at the ice cream shops here?
I do. They get two kinds. They get, health and safety training because they have to wash their hands.
Right.
But I used to do this every year. Now that I have returning employees, I don't. But I would just give them all $10 and say, go be a tourist. You go to this house, you go to this house, you go to this house. Go find out what's going on in downtown St. Genevieve. And then we had a little lesson about how to answer questions. Like when people ask, where can I get? It's like, don't send them out of town. Where do I get breakfast? It's like, don't send them out on the highway. Send them downtown.
Jack, can you touch on how Country Mart, with your past experience, how Country Mart goes? Because they do a great job, I think.
Actually, I wasn't really involved in the management side of Country Mart for very long at all.
Well, at the last Rotary meeting, John made mention of the fact that we've got to get out of here before 1 o'clock because, or unless, this is
Right, yeah.
a direct quote, unless you want to stay and become a checker.
Yeah.
Because they were going to have training.
Yeah, we're going to have training too. But I really don't know how extensive, knowledge about downtown and tourism. That wasn't really stressed when I was out there.
I don't see a lot of it because we'll go in our shirts, which are the same color.
Right, yeah.
And they'll say, well, where are you? And we'll start talking about it and they're like, where's that? And I'm like, you live here. Mostly the kids.
Yeah.
We don't know where that is. And I'm thinking, but you had to have gone to these places in 4th grade. But they really
Well, when I
aren't
first moved here
connecting.
14, 15 years ago, I had a conversation with a store owner uptown, and we got to be good friends, and he said, well, which B&B is it you own? And I described it to him, wasn't getting through to him. And he finally said, is that in the historic district? This is a shop on Rozier Street. And I said, yeah. He said, oh, I never go to the historic district.
Oh, my goodness.
It must be out of his way.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I could hit the place with a rock from here.
Right.
Well, so, okay, so I will take that next step with those, and by all means, if, like I said, if it's something that you have additional thoughts on, please send an email back. We'll be looking at this the next few weeks, probably.
Can I ask a question of Mr. Toma? Is the hiking, biking trail, or the hiking trail, just completely on hold, waiting for the solution to the rock on the levee?
No. It's on hold, waiting for the final report from the Corps of Engineers as to what elements of work they will allow us to spend the money that we have that will count as match against any future Corps expenditures. And they're expecting that report to be out in August.
Oh, right.
Okay.
Now, these entrepreneurial opportunities, by definition, entrepreneurial, I guess, connotes that it's private, not city, on these 5 items. Page 2, bottom of page 2.
It wouldn't necessarily have to be just private. I mean, I tend to think, private business feels that need most readily, and it's a good opportunity for a private business, but I suppose that we could pursue, I mean, have been talk about making RV sites available and
Yeah.
just having the people, check in at the Welcome Center. It wouldn't actually be, like, let's say it was the Jour de Fête grounds. It wouldn't be city property, but it would be a place that they could check in and get their, space assignment or whatever. So that's probably, I mean, I'd have to talk with Martin and the mayor about it, but probably doable if we wanted to approach it in that way, even in the short term. Because we have, we collectively as a community have those spaces there, and they're about to, get used to whatever degree during the eclipse, so. And I know that, for instance, the Jour de Fête committee is making some adjustments there, to get those ready for it, electricity or that kind of thing. Is that what you meant by private versus public?
Well, the reason I brought it up actually is because every year, I guess, when I have to apply for insurance for the bed and breakfast, before they ask if the house is sprinkled, they say, do you have bike rentals? Because they're really uptight about that.
They're taking it kind of work.
Yeah, very definitely. They'd rather you put a canoe on the Mississippi River than rent a bike.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I don't know if you remember, but a few years ago, there was an individual who was
Yeah.
intending to donate some bicycles to the Welcome Center to make this available. And while we were in the course of looking at that possibility and how we could implement it, Martin, you had contacted our city insurance company, and it was quite the opposite in that regard.
Well, it wasn't that they were encouraging, but they didn't discourage us. But then cities have kind of a unique
Yeah.
position in terms of our immunity from liability claims.
Yeah. Just thought I'd mention it.
Right. I've got an eclipse update, but that will come a little later. I think that's it for now.
Okay, well, we will move on to old business. So National Park Historic Site. You have updaters?
I can tell you, the local media has been doing a good job covering it, so if you happen to have your hands on the most recent edition of the Herald, there is an article, but I can tell you this, that the National Park Service legislation was reintroduced last month in the House and in the Senate, and as of now, I think it has in the Senate, it has been attached to a bill. It is in subcommittee. It is up for review. It's not quite that far in the House yet, but it's moving in that direction. And at some point, there will be, people will be encouraged to write letters of support. And the letter is not intended to convince Senator Blunt, because he's already convinced. It is, but it provides him and his staff and the Senator McCaskill and Representative Smith with some ammunition that they can talk to their fellow legislators about the kind of support that it gets. So any letter writing campaign, it wouldn't be necessarily to convince them, because they are already convinced, and they're doing as much as they can do to make it happen.
Several weeks ago, we were, well, probably a little longer ago than that, we're encouraged to write letters. The city's already written letters. We can write more letters, but I don't know if it's going to be going to Blunt and McCaskill and Smith. So how many letters do we write, I guess, is my question. You're saying there's a time when they need to be written.
I think, I mean, that's my understanding. Sandra, do you have any
So-
insight into this? I mean, I would say the city probably does not need to write an
Another
additional
one.
letter.
Oh.
They already have one.
Right, and if there's an individual who has an interest in this that hasn't written a letter yet, this would be the time to do it.
Is now the time, is my question.
Now is the time, yes, yes. And phone calls, too. I originally would have thought that letters would be more powerful than phone calls, but in talking with the congressional staff, the phone calls, they actually,
They log and keep records of it.
they keep a track of those, and so, so that could be equally or possibly more important and easier to do, right?
It just needs to be, this is Martin Toma, a citizen of St. Genevieve in your congressional district or whatever,
Right.
and I support it. That's all you
Right.
gotta do. Just name the bill, the number.
Yes.
I think mail, when it goes to Washington now, it's, x-rayed and irradiated and all kind of other things before it gets into the hands of somebody that you
You're
would
right.
like to read it. Yeah.
So, okay.
Do you think you can give us the contact information, like for phone calls with the bill number and all that stuff, in case someone doesn't have it?
Martin has the
Martin,
list.
okay.
He's got the House list, I think. We don't know.
I have a list of people that are on the committees for the Natural Resources Committee for the House, and because the chairman of that committee is identified as a person who is not in favor of another national park anywhere, anytime, ever. And so my thought was, we may or may not be able to influence him, but he's got a whole committee that we can influence. And so I distributed it at the meeting that list of contact information for all of the committee members on that committee, and I'll make it available to anybody who wants it.
Good, thank you.
And I've written a short sample letter that it's like 2 lines. I own a business in St. Genevieve, this would make a big difference to me. All you gotta do is change the address.
And you can pass that out at several meetings to people just so they can use that as a template, along with the list that Martin provided.
I actually had that, Pat had supplied that to me, and I passed it out to several of my merchants as well, with the list. So-
Great, great. So we could maybe do the same for the Senate side. That was the House committee. And so on the Senate side, it's going to be energy, natural resources, something. And so maybe we could get that similar list of members and provide that to people.
So send me an email with the committee
Okay,
that's been assigned to, you have to go through and kind of cut and paste.
okay.
Spreadsheet out of it. I can do that.
Thank you. Okay, is that all for the national parks then? We'll move on to the equals update.
Okay, so I'm going to pass these down and around, and I feel certain that everyone in the audience probably already. That's great of you to look out there.
What? There's going to be an eclipse?
Yeah.
Sometime.
No, he told me.
Telling the mayor, my girlfriend informed me that she's taking the day off to be in St. Genevieve for the eclipse.
Not to see
So,
you.
So what are you telling me?
Still think we ought to move it back a week, too close to your effect.
Yeah, really. Really, this scheduling is just.
Or at the same time.
Yeah. That would be really crazy.
So how do you come in on the reservations for viewing spots? Are there still lots available?
So yes, all of this is occurring in Cyberville. So as you can see down at the bottom here, free reserved viewing sites, but you must register online. Food vendors, lawn games, science activities. We have filtered telescopes that will be there. State Parks is going to be there with information. And the Art Guild is going to have a display also. And of course, then we're going to have Eclipse merchandise. You know, we're not going overboard, but just something for mementos for people. And so, as last count, we had over 1,000 pre-registered on the website, and we're quickly filling up a lot of the parking, the off-site parking, and then shuttling people over to the event. And I fully expect that we're probably going to have as many people show up, you know, that haven't pre-registered, and they'll just show up that day. Now, whether they want to watch it at the community center or they just want to get to the center line and pull off the road somewhere, remains to be seen. But I feel pretty good at this point that we're, you know, like 5 weeks out, and we've got, we still have spaces. So we had, if you remember previous presentations, we have 4,000 gridded out spaces available on the large soccer fields adjacent to the community center. And so I feel pretty good about that, that we should not be, you know, like elbow to elbow, just a mass of humanity kind of a thing. And we do have the ability to absorb the walk-ups, the, you know, spontaneous, I just decided I was going to show up here today, people. So the other thing I wanted to point out on this flyer in particular is that on Sunday, we are hosting an event down here in the downtown from noon until 9 p.m. This is a music festival, and at the last several chamber music series events, they have been announcing the band list, and I'm going to send information to the paper too about this so that we can get it into the Herald. But so downtown music festival and beer garden on Sunday, and the viewing event adjacent to the community center on Monday. And there is obviously alcohol going to be there on Sunday, but on Monday, it's a family-oriented event. We're not having alcohol, and no coolers are allowed on the premises, so it's kind of how we're approaching it.
So if I'm staying downtown and I want to go to the community center for viewing, is the transportation?
So,
Do I have
yes.
to drive to a parking space and get on a shuttle, or would there be?
So both of those scenarios would work. You could either reserve a parking space and a shuttle pass, or if you're staying downtown, we've reserved the trolley for both days, Sunday and Monday, just to be circulating around in addition to our designated parking shuttles that are going to be going, you know, from Lot A over to the viewing center, Lot B over to the viewing center. We're going to have the trolley circulating around too, specifically to pick up, like for instance, the Southern Hotel had asked for, you know, transportation for their guests to get over to the viewing sites, since they're already parked there at the hotel, so. So, it's going along. I'm hoping to have another meeting of the Eclipse Planning, the large group meeting next week, and also probably get another meeting together with our music festival planning group next week too. And then just brace yourselves because it's coming.
Ready or not.
Yeah.
Okay, any further comments on the eclipse? Any other old business? Okay, well, we'll move right along to new business, FY 2018 budget cycle.
Okay, so we are at that point in the budget cycle where we have, the department heads have submitted draft budgets to Martin as city administrator, and I'm going to circulate these to you, although these are not, you know, for viewing outside the committee necessarily. This would be just so that you're informed on the proposed budget as it stands now. This has not been reviewed by Martin, so if you wanted to make suggestions for something that you thought should be higher or lower or added to it, we could. If you look at the page that at the top, it says FY 2018 budget, Welcome Center General Fund. You can see the last 3 years actual spending and the current year that we're in, the FY 2017 adopted budget, and where we stood on the 8 months. These went through the end of May, and so the final column there would be the 2018 proposed budget. You can see that under salaries and benefits and so on, I kept it the same as what we had last year. It's up to the alderman to decide if there will be a cost of living increase or a merit increase in the budget. And then I increased the line item 6,000 in 2018, primarily because this will be a year when we will be revising and reprinting our brochure. Believe it or not, it's that time again, and so that expense, that additional expense would fall in that fiscal year. If you flip it over to the back, originally when I put this together and turned it into Martin, I was anticipating that we probably would get 12,000 in co-op grant funds. Well, excuse me, it would be 6,000, and they have recently told us that that will be cut in half, and so that 6,000 is actually the total line item, and 50% of that is provided by the city and 50% by the state. So, so that will still be revised due to those state budget changes. The state took a $10 million decrease in tourism spending across the state. So, and if they do it like they did last year, they withheld the funds, and as the revenues came in, then they added them back into the Missouri Division of Tourism's budget, but in the beginning, we don't know that. So what they did was they held back whatever the proportionate amount of the money that would have gone into the co-op grants to the designated marketing organizations. They, I think it was 54%. They took 54% of all of those agreements back off the table. It might be added later on, but that's where we stand now.
I'm sorry, are you saying that that was across the board with all the DMOs? That same number?
That's my understanding. I only, have seen my own, but,
That was the email that was sent out.
yeah, it was across the board. Yeah, so you're saying, like, even the big hitters,
Yeah,
like
right.
St. Louis and Kansas
Yeah,
City,
exactly.
they were cut an equal proportionate amount, yeah.
Okay.
So
Like-
imagine,
To say that the city treasurer and I, every time this year, have to think about what our revenue streams will be, and we don't see any evidence that we should project a significant increase in our revenues, so we're constrained by the income limits that we've lived with for the last year, or two, actually. We've got projected stable revenues. But at least it's not going down.
Yeah.
We think we can keep it where it is and be okay.
Martin, do we know which alderman's meeting is going to have, we don't know that yet, do we? It's usually
The hearing,
in
we have
August.
the date set, but we haven't assigned the people.
Which one's which, okay. So usually, what we ask the committee members to do is, if this is of interest to them, we would invite them to come to the Board of Aldermen meeting where we would be reviewing this department's budget, and always appreciate your support in that regard. And we've never had, any difficulties necessarily in terms of, I think everyone understands the importance of tourism in St. Genevieve, certainly, and also just from an economic standpoint, it's one of the few ways to bring new dollars into your community to recirculate inside the community. So we'll keep you posted about that, and when we know when those budget hearings are going to be. In the meantime, if anyone has any questions, don't hesitate to get in touch with me, because I'll be making some minor changes to it as we move forward.
Okay, any questions to Sandra on that? Comments? Okay, well, we will move right into the TAC elections of the chair and the vice chair.
Is that two separate motions?
What's that?
Chair, vice chair?
I think it is, yes. So we elect the chair first?
We do chair first and then vice chair.
I'd like to nominate Sarah Menard for chair.
Okay, I wasn't done talking, but
No.
that's
Yeah, you are.
I was just going to say, thank you to Kathy Waltz for her years
Oh,
of
yes.
service
Absolutely,
on the TAC
yes.
board. Now you can go ahead with your motion.
Gee, what am I going to say?
Pick someone else.
Yeah. I'd like to nominate Sarah for chairperson.
Second that.
She has to accept.
I would be willing, if elected, to serve for 12 meetings.
For 12 meetings.
Spread out over.
Do we have a second on that?
You have to ask if there are any other nominations, and you have to close nominations.
Are there any other nominations from the floor? Okay, so we'll cease that nomination and elect by, we do it
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, congratulations.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you.
Sorry, did you second it?
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry.
Okay, and now the vice chair.
Anything else to say?
Nope.
Well, I'd like to nominate you for that position.
Okay, I'll accept that nomination. Thank you, Jan.
I'll second.
Any other nominations from the floor?
Or
All those-
or volunteers.
Or volunteers? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Okay, so, upcoming events, Sandra?
So, just to a couple of big things that we have yet in July. And Tom, if you would like to mention about the Artisan Showcase and Sale?
Yeah. My lovely wife and myself are having at our foundry a guest artist. This is our 12th annual, where we have guest artists who have been selected by a jury of museum curators and hosted by Early American Life magazine, that their work is museum quality. And they'll be exhibiting that in our studios this Saturday and Sunday during normal business hours. And we've done advertising cooperating with the city in a national magazine, and we tend to bring anywhere between 400 and 700 people into town over the course of the weekend. We're hoping the weather won't deter anybody this year. And a lot of them stay at local bed and breakfast and hotels, and some of them stay for 3 or 4 days. And we're just hoping we have a good turnout.
Media are being represented.
We have our wood carver, who does everything from custom signs to phenomenal things that have been featured in a number of national magazines this year, creating patterns for wood carvers to do. We also have a scrimshaw artist who's been working for about 35 years in her craft and makes things for dignitaries, governors, presidents, and things as well. We have let's see, we have a paper quiller from right here in town. Lisa Palmer will be there. We also have
Kathy DePaul.
Kathy DePaul, who does
She's a fiber artist.
Fiber artist, does miniature quilts and other fiber handwork.
And Candy Mahurin,
Candy
who
Mahurin
does hat boxes and painted game boards, among other things. She has artist ADD. She does a lot of stuff.
So that'll be 9:30 to 5 this Saturday and Sunday.
We'll have refreshments and door prizes, and it's a party.
And now that you have that new light, well, of course, it'll be daylight, won't it? But they can see better when they're wandering
We'll
around.
turn it on.
Martin's been the last couple of years, and he'll attest to the fact that it's a giant party.
Well, I mean, it's kind of as they just illustrated by describing who's going to be there, it's this opportunity to see all these diverse crafts and art in one place, and you're right, I was impressed.
It's a party.
And then the five or six people that are there, including Patricia and myself, have almost 200 years of experience making a living with their hands. And then we have, of course, our usual about 60 artists who are working there that have also been featured in the magazine. Some of those will put notes on their work.
Well, I've been very impressed, and even bought a few Christmas gifts there, so it's a great place to shop, too. And then, so that is this weekend, the 22nd and 23rd. And then on the 28th, we have the Fourth Friday Art Walk, sponsored by St. Genevieve Downtown Renewal Project. August, I think we know what 2 big events are in August already. I wanted to point out that in September, in conjunction with the St. Genevieve History Conference, is it okay to say? We'll
Save the date.
yeah, save the date of September 22nd, because we're going to, well, maybe we'll be announcing a national park site by then, but we're definitely going to be focusing on our historic treasures here in St. Genevieve that weekend. So, and not to be too funny about the 2 August events, but obviously there's Jour de Fête on the second weekend and the eclipse on the 20th and 21st, so. And farmers markets on Saturday.
Right. Any other events? Well, I would just like to say that we only have 2 more weeks in our summer music series, and I cannot believe that it flew by. It's unbelievable.
And you've had really good crowds.
We have yes, we've been very blessed with that. I have a group this weekend for Griffin and the Gargoyles, actually a group of 16 coming from Indiana. So they bought their tickets back in like March, and they've been chomping at the bit to get to St. Genevieve. So I'm pretty happy. They're actually going to be here from Friday through Sunday. So they've already, I think, scheduled a trolley tour and the wineries and all kinds of things. So I'm pretty excited about
I'm
that.
so glad that you said that, because there was something I meant to talk about during my report. If you'll just humor me for a moment. The next 2 days, we have what I consider like the perfect storm of an example of the type of direction we'd like to move in for French Colonial St. Genevieve. So there's the National Association of French Teachers meeting in St. Louis this past weekend until right now. And we were contacted early last fall by a member of Ways and Me that encouraged them to consider St. Genevieve as like a pre-conference, post-conference tour location. And so we sent them proposals, worked out all of the details. Of course, we're used to working out the details here in St. Genevieve, but we also put together a whole French colonial corridor tour for them. So tomorrow, they'll be here in St. Genevieve in the afternoon, taking some tours, eating dinner at a local restaurant, and then the next morning, they're going to start at ASL Pewter, and they're going to have a special demonstration there, hopefully also do some shopping there. They're going to pick up some box lunches from another restaurant here in town, and they're going to go down to the Chester Bridge, and we've set up appointments for them on the Illinois side of things to see the French Creole corridor over there. And so 2 days of business, local restaurants. The thing I haven't mentioned yet is where they're spending the night. They're spending the night here in St. Genevieve, and this particular group wanted to have the bed and breakfast experience. So you don't hear that very often from a group that they are willing to split up, because obviously we can only do so many in the bed and breakfast. And this group really preferred to do that, and so the B&Bs worked with us to work through a rooming list situation and give everyone a guaranteed rate. And as long as everything goes well the next couple of days, I think this, and my heavens, they're French teachers, so hopefully they'll bring their classes back or bring other teachers back from their district or something. So really excited about this group in a lot of ways.
What kind of size, what size of the group?
It's not that big. There's like 18 of them. Okay. But the way I see it, each one of them is a little wedge into, you know, their colleagues or maybe even their students. Some of them are from the St. Louis area, but others are from all across the country.
Yep. John?
I know we're running out of time, but I just wanted to ask Donna for a quick.
I can answer it.
The new roof is terrific.
Oh, thanks.
They did a great job. Can you tell us what's going to happen with the green tree?
That's the save the date.
Oh.
They were working there today, though.
Oh, they've been working.
We're cleaning it up, we're getting a lot of things done. We're hoping for an opening in conjunction with the history conference, and
I'm
then...
sorry if I missed that with a second.
It's okay. Just don't put this in the newspaper, you'll get me fired. I know this is going out on TV, right? So we're hoping for it.
Yeah, it was a lot of work going on.
And then after that, we're going to see how my budget goes for TSLs, temporary seasonal labor, and start opening the doors.
And the Amarillo?
The Amaro will still be ours until the National Park Service comes in. Then I don't have to worry about that. Not that I do, because I really love the Amaro, but...
Yeah, of course.
Yep, so, you know, any second, any moment, things are going to change. Yeah.
Okay,
Sorry
well,
to be redundant.
is there any other business anyone wants to discuss? Okay, I'll entertain a motion for an adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
See you guys next month.
Thanks for sharing.
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tom Hooper,
Present?
Sabrina Ford,
Here.
Jack Cuddy,
Here.
Lawrence Myers, Jan Grain, and Richard Grimminger. You have to be. I'm still supposed to ask.
Oh.
Yep. We have a quorum.
We have some new members who aren't present. I wonder if we have our mayor stand up and introduce those members who aren't here.
Well, I'm sorry about that. I knew Lawrence was going to be on vacation this week. He told me that. But Jan, I thought would be here tonight, so I don't. And she was confirmed she had the information, so we'll check into that. So they'll be our new members. I'm sure something come up. Jeez.
Thank you. Okay. Approval of the agenda? Any additions or corrections to the agenda? Or should we approve as written?
Motion. I move with the agenda approved.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Agenda approved. Please review the minutes of the last meeting from April 18th. There are no any corrections or additions? Entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve that.
And I'll second.
Thank you. Passes.
It's up to me and you.
Okay. Financial report. And saying that has presented that. It's in vertical form. We have there are some expenditures that have been paid since accrued since our last meeting, and current balance is $10,008.16. Additions, corrections?
I move for approval of the financial report.
I second that.
Approved. Okay, old business.
I do have one item under old business. This is just a summary of our search engine marketing program. And
Yep, I got that one too.
is this what we need is more paper, right?
No. Dave, would you like to say? Search engine marketing.
I just thought it would be illustrative for the committee to see the clicks that we get from the search engine marketing that we conduct through the funds that are provided from this committee. The year-to-date totals, we have two different sides to the program. We spend more of our budget with Google than we do with Bing. But between September and June, you can see each month by each format there. And our total for Google was 12,263, and the total in Bing was 5,377. For a year-to-date total, 17,640 clicks. These are 17,000 clicks on the website that theoretically wouldn't have found us if we hadn't advertised to them. So I just thought you might appreciate seeing some of those results.
Any other old business? On to new business then. We have some expenditures to present.
Yes, I'll circulate this. I'll send it down this way, and then if you could send it back. This is the, we talked about this at the last, that all stays in the paper clip.
Oh, okay.
The last meeting, or 2 meetings ago, we approved the billboard for the northbound on Interstate 55 down by Jackson. And the one that's before you today is this one that's in this packet of papers. That is the southbound, that's just south of the Highway 67 interchange. That's actually a map there that shows both of the locations. So if you choose to renew this, it would be a $5,700 renewal. It's $500 per month, but they give us a discount if we pay it all at one time, so we save a little bit of money by doing that, instead of $6,000.
That's the southbound? I thought we were doing the northbound.
It's the
Yeah, it's the southbound. That's right.
Yeah. It's a north face,
North
which
face,
is a little bit
yeah.
confusing, you know. And they rattle it off like
And
this.
it's north of town.
It's north of here, yeah.
When does the current lease expire?
It expires this month, so,
Before the end of the month.
yeah.
So you have to renew it now.
If we're going to renew it, yeah. The other expense that would be before the committee would be 2 months of search engine marketing, and we spend roughly $300 per month, and that sometimes it's a few minutes, it's a few dollars lower, a few dollars higher.
I see it every day when I come home.
And it brings you to St. Genevieve. It's one.
No, I ain't. That's right. 3 o'clock every day, my car just said.
Oh, I am so not in terms of reprinting, but yes,
I didn't know if there was, because that was for 2
on
months.
the distribution.
So we have a couple more months coming back.
Exactly right. Yeah, and it is $220 per month.
Okay, so thank you.
Maybe do 2 months.
Okay, so we have that bill submitted. The additional bills, do we want to, let's go ahead and present all the bills and we can vote on them one at a time.
So the second one would be 2 months of search engine marketing. That's $300 per month. And then the third one would be 2 months of distribution on our rack cards, which is $220 per month. At the last meeting, we approved April, May, and June. I'm suggesting 2 months, just by virtue of thinking that we'll probably have a meeting a little earlier next time.
So,
You're saying three months of search engines, is that Google and Bing?
Yes, but 2 months. We're just doing 2 months.
2 months.
Which is $300 per month, so $600 total, and 2 months of the rack card distribution.
yeah, so basically $6,740 in expenditures total. Any comments before we vote on these? Should anyone opposed to us voting them as a group of bills to be paid?
Well, I would like some information, like, the billboard, have we been tracking, like, the tourists coming to town saying that they seen the billboard? Do we have any of that data?
We do track that, and I've reported on it at previous meetings. It is one of the things that they mention. They mention things all across the board, from including, I came here in the 4th grade and now I'm back to, I saw the billboard. But some of the more common ones are the billboard, the website. They might be coming in for a festival. But I know that people have mentioned that they, have seen the billboard, and I know that businesses have mentioned that. I know at the last time that we were talking about this in the Tourism Advisory Council, I know that 2 of the other lodging persons had mentioned that they have guests that come in and mention that they've seen the billboard on the interstate.
So how much is that budget, 6,000?
6740, if my math is correct.
That's what I got, yeah.
Is there a motion to approve these expenditures?
If we're going to do them
As a group?
as a group.
Yeah. Or you could break it down, I suppose.
I move that we do approve them as a group, and that we approve the total amount of 6740.
Is there a
Second that.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Expenditures to be sent to the city for payment. One note, this does put us, we fortunately have, this will be receiving some more monies from head taxes this month. This puts us a little bit below where we'd like to be in our rainy day fund. But with the current income coming in, that will put us back up to where we should be. Any other new business? And you were in on the TAC meeting, so you know some of the upcoming events, and your facility is prepared for the onslaught of people upcoming.
We actually had a big cancellation. We had the big Japanese group come, and they couldn't get enough people involved and signed up with that, so they canceled, but we're not having a problem filling it up.
No, we had a wait list that we started calling, and we said, hey, there's rooms at the Microtel, hey, there's
Yeah.
room. Have you had quite a few people call?
Yeah, we're down to like 7 rooms left already.
Okay.
And they had 34 rooms, so
Yeah.
we were able to fill them.
I don't think those will
Yeah,
last.
it shouldn't last too long. Just put, once people know there's a couple rooms,
Oh, yeah.
they'll be on.
Yeah.
Oh, I had somebody asking Sunday. I wish I had known.
Yeah, we do have a little bit of availability left.
So once the Microtel is sold out again, then
Yeah.
we will be sold out in rooms, and we have added overnight accommodations with additional RV sites and tent camping sites, and, individuals who are willing to take on guests in their home, but
That aren't otherwise VRBO.
that are not otherwise this rate. I still think, despite the dire predictions of how large the flow of traffic is going to be, I don't think it's going to be as bad as that, but I do think that there's going to be a lot of people that will wait until Monday morning to come down, and they think, I'm in St. Louis, I'm only an hour away, I'll just drive. So,
And
Last month, NBC was saying from Sunday afternoon till Monday night, 55 will be a parking lot. And that was last month.
well, one thing that we're planning, I don't mean to make this into an Eclipse meeting, but one thing that we're planning to do is we have our designated parking areas kind of staged, and we have the email addresses for all those people. So some of them, if we're going to say, if you're coming from the south, get off at the Ozora exit and come in that way. If you're coming from the north and you're parked at lots, A or B, come in this exit. If you're parked at lot E or F, come in that exit, trying to spread them out a little bit that way so that they're not all coming in the Dairy Queen exit, so
Very good.
we'll do what we can.
Any other new business? We have elections. We have 3 positions to fill. Who wants to volunteer? I mean, be indentured? Or-
Well, Tom, I would like you to be the chairperson again.
I can do that. We do need a vote, though.
Was that a motion and a second?
Yes, that's a motion.
Yes.
A motion for Tom to be chairperson. Okay.
All those in favor, I guess?
Aye.
Aye.
We have vice chair open. Any nominations?
Nominate Jack.
Yes, what happens
It's a
if you have
small
no
group.
meetings?
Yes, it is.
I second that nomination.
Now we know where the others are here.
Yeah.
Usually you get elected when you're not there.
That's what I did,
Well, stay tuned.
All those in favor?
Aye. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, since 2 people here are already elected, is the third person interested in taking on the position of secretary treasurer, or should we
Yeah,
go
sure.
to those who are not present?
You do that?
Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
Jack, would you like?
I would make that nomination.
And I will second that. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
So,
It's a good job since we provide a secretary and a treasurer.
right, it's,
You got the best deal there.
Yes.
okay. Is there any other business before the board? Anything from the community?
Nope.
I guess I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Adjourn? I so moved.
I second that.
And I vote in favor of it, so that's 3 of us. So we're aye.